Is there anything that I'm doing that's a threat to our marriage? This is a conversation that we should have with our wives at some point. But today, what we're going to do is unpack when it is appropriate in our relationship to even ask a question like this. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Husband's Coach's Corner, the podcast that teaches husbands how to love their wife every day and become better men in the process. I'm your host, Chris Scott, aka the Husband Coach.
Welcome back to the Husband Coach's Corner. Today, we're going to be asking a very specific question. Is there anything that I do that is a threat to our marriage? Now, there are some things that you need to be aware of before you go into this question, because you may hear something from your wife that either one, you don't agree with, or two, you had no idea you were doing and you thought it was something that was beneficial. So there is a level of maturity in your marriage and also in your own personal development, right? If you're not secure with yourself, with the things that you do, and you can't hear constructive feedback, or if your wife has some hard time sharing constructively, then maybe this is something better left with a third party to help facilitate that conversation. Now, if you are at a point where you can talk with your wife and you guys are on good communication skills or whatnot, then this is an awesome question to gain insight. And ultimately, we want to gain understanding as to what it is that you're doing that she believes is a threat to the marriage and why it's a threat to the marriage. All right. So let's unpack this just a little bit further. Now, before we go too much further, if you are finding value in this content, go ahead and give this a like or a subscribe or whatnot. Whatever platform you're watching or listening to this on, just helps the algorithms get this into the hands of the people that may be looking for stuff like this. And if you know someone who can benefit, please share it with them. Now, why ask this question? I think I already answered that a little bit with the fact that we want to gain understanding from our wife. That's the first reason, right? I want to understand what my wife is thinking. I want to understand why she's thinking what she's thinking and what I'm doing that's causing her to think that. Now, you're going to be challenged with maybe some upbringing concerns. If you do something that goes against the way that she was raised, or what she expected of her husband when she got married, yeah, you're going to run into some circumstances. But you might get caught off guard by the things that you're doing that you perceived as showing love, right? This podcast, we talk about finding ways to love our wife every day. And you may think, oh, what I was doing in my daily routine is me showing you love, and she did not actually receive love from it because it went against either a value of hers or something of that sort. So it's important that we ask this and gain understanding of what she's thinking. But also, it provides clarity on our actions. Now, your actions, my actions, our actions, they're always being observed by our wife. Regardless of if you think they are or not, your wife, she has some sort of perception of what it is that you do from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep. Even when she doesn't see you, if she knows where you are, she perceives what you're doing. You know, if you're like, hey, I'm going to the gym, well, she perceives that you're at the gym working out. Now, if you are a man of integrity and you're actually going to the places and doing the things that you say that you're going to do, then, you know, you're going to be perfectly fine. If you are a man of questionable integrity, and you know if you are, your wife is going to pick up on that. And even if she doesn't, it's a terrible thing to set a precedence of lying to your wife. So don't be a man with or lacking integrity. It doesn't build your marriage, all right? It's actually going to destroy your marriage in the long term because eventually those things do come out. Even if she doesn't know all the details, some way or another, they do come out. Just have integrity, all right? Now, the other thing is it drives open conversation. Now, this is where that constructive criticism from your wife comes in. And if your wife is not able to give you good constructive criticism, then maybe this isn't a question that you ask right away, or this is something where you get a third party just to help decipher what it is that your wife is trying to say, because this is one of those questions that can get your wife a little spun up, and you'll end up in an argument, and that's not the goal here. We don't want to end up in an argument. We want to gain understanding, and communication skills, they are challenging, all right? And very few people have them, which is why we focus on communication a lot here, because as a husband, I want you to be a strong, firm leader, but also a very good communicator inside of your relationship, always bringing some sort of calm and peace and gentleness. So that's that. And then the last thing, it allows you to it allows you to assess your own processes and your own routine. Now, what you do on a daily basis should always be under examination by you, and taking into consideration those around you. Your routine is something that is so important that from the time that you wake up, you have a certain amount of time that you get to use throughout that day, right? Time doesn't stop, and we can't make more of it, so you have to use it wisely. Well, when your wife tells you these things, it allows you to step back and say, okay, do I go to the gym too much? Is there a way that maybe I can work out and do some things around the house, or work out faster so I can do some more of the things around the house that shows my wife that I love her and that I hear her and she's a priority in my life? Or is my routine pretty locked in and there's no way that I can change my routine? I will argue that if you believe you cannot change your routine, you are not at a maturity level to determine your priorities well, okay? And I'm not saying that to tear you down or tell you that you're a terrible person or husband. What I'm telling you is your routine can always be altered. And one of those things is maybe you sleep just a little bit less, right? Maybe you get up earlier or you go to bed a little bit later, and you find the time, you carve out the time to take care of the things that are important to your wife. Because no matter what, we live in this society where we got to work and work and work and work. And I get it. You have to earn a living. But at the same time, eventually you won't have that job, right? Even if you're self-employed, you won't be working at some point. Now, I'm a firm believer of once you're married, that is your life partner. That is your wife until death do you part, right? Well, when you part from your job, guess who's still going to be there? It's your wife. So if you're doing things in your daily, weekly, or monthly routine that are a threat to your marriage, it's better to get in front of those things now, because if that routine continues, some of you may be near retirement age where you think like, okay, I'm going to retire and then I'm going to be at home with my wife all the time and things are going to be great. And then you get out of whatever your position is, your job, and you go home and you're like, oh, retirement life is great. Or you're going to say retirement life sucks because I don't know how to change my routine in a manner that shows my wife that I love her. All right. So this is a great question to ask early on in your marriage, assuming your maturity level is there. And, you can really change the way that you respond to your wife and the trajectory of your marriage if you can identify the things that your wife feels are a threat. And feel free, because this is also a opportunity to open that conversation. Share with your wife the things that she does that you feel are a threat to your marriage. All right. It's important that both of you have that conversation because you don't know what you don't know. And we don't always see our own flaws, or we don't always see the things that we're doing. So we need a third party or someone outside of ourselves to give us feedback. And that's essentially what we're asking for here. Now, how should you respond when this particular question comes up? And when you have this, you got the feedback from your wife. So now what do you do with it, right? That's what this is really getting at. Well, the first thing is going back to that maturity level, sound like a broken record. But the truth is, if you are not at a point in your, personal development where you feel confident in changing your routine, then at least you have the information, right? Write it down and highlight the things that you need to change in your routine. You're just not there yet, and you're not ready to change those things. And I understand that, right? I fully understand that. Sometimes we have seasonal routines. Maybe you are training for a marathon and you're like, no, I have to go out and run for 3 hours every day. I can't change that, but eventually I will be able to change that. And your wife is saying, hey, you spend way too much time working out. At least now you understand what's going on. And maybe she says, hey, 3 hours is way too long for you to be out the house, working out. And the reason why it's too long is because maybe you have little kids that need care, or maybe there's cleaning that needs to happen around the house, or maybe your wife has a job and she can't do her job because she's doing some other things around the house, whatever those things are. So that's a perfect opportunity where you can look at your routine and your schedule and say, I can actually do an hour and a half workout in the morning, and then I do an hour and a half workout in the evening, still getting my 3 hours. Or maybe I move all 3 hours outside of the time frame where it's conflicting with my wife, where it's a threat to our marriage, where, she's getting upset and I'm really messing up this communication thing with my wife, right? There's all kinds of ways of playing that scenario out. If you got specific questions, you can email me. Check the show notes or description box below for the email. And, you can absolutely ask me, and I'll give you some suggestions and feedback free of charge. And it's just, I want to help you, right? Now, some other ways that you can respond is you can part ways with routines or certain things in your routine altogether. You can just say, you know what, that's out of here. I'm not going to do it anymore. And you go on about your life and keep it moving. That is not always easy. And sometimes it is unsettling. And I don't want you to do it just as a compliance thing to shut your wife up, right? If you have that sort of mentality behind, all right, fine, if this is a threat, I'll stop doing it. You're going to find something else to fill that time with that may not be the best use of the time. So my recommendation is, if you are not mature enough and ready to change your routine, at least identify what things are in your routine, and then take some time to really reflect on, do you have to have this thing, or can I part ways with it altogether? But then when you part ways with it, replace it with something that your wife would find, beneficial to your marriage. All right. That could be, instead of going on, a 45-minute run by yourself, maybe go on a 15-minute walk with your wife and then go for a run for 30 minutes. I don't know. There's just, there are so many ways that you can work your routine. I keep saying workout stuff, and I know that there's more than just fitness things that people go to, but my career and the husbands I talk with, physical fitness seems to be the primary thing that is competing with the routine that their wife is saying is a threat So that's the reason why it comes up a lot. Obviously, there is the routine of money, right? People spending more money. That could be a threat to your marriage. And the best way of getting in front of money threats is developing a budget and agreeing on that budget with your wife. But, I'm not a financial coach. I can absolutely recommend and affirm that having a budget, anytime that you develop a deliberate plan, you are going to win in that event, whatever that category, whatever it is, you're going to win. All right. That's just the way it goes. But kind of went down a rabbit hole there. We're going to bring it back. How should you respond? Next thing, what I want you to do, and this is what I urge you to do. I've been saying it all throughout this segment of the episode here. Find at least one thing on your routine and take the time to transform that into something that reciprocates love to your wife, and you will win in the process. I guarantee it. Now, obviously, if it's not like a daily thing that you're doing, and this is a weekly thing or a monthly thing, and your wife is like, hey, this is a threat, then turn that into the same amount of consistency, but something that your wife would find beneficial. So if once a month you go on a fishing trip, maybe find a way that you get your wife involved on that fishing trip. I don't know. Whatever it is, you will have to be creative to figure that out. But like I said, if you want to, kind of bounce ideas, send me an email and I will be more than happy to help bounce ideas with you. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you haven't already, check the description box and sign up for the email list. Just for doing that, you're going to get a free copy of the Wife Journal. Number one tool that I use to assess my wife and to build my marriage. And most importantly, finding ways to show my wife love every single day. So until next time, I want you guys to find a way to love your wife every day. Peace.